when we were making the last album, as I say, everything was fine in the studio as far as, you know, apart from that one little episode I mentioned earlier. The one thing that was going on in the background was this dilemma where there was a new manager involved, a guy called Ken Friedman, an American guy. Johnny was really keen to kind of get all that weight off his shoulders because they'd fired so many managers over the years. There was obviously these periods where Johnny basically was running the band, you know, managing the band. And he wanted to get all that kind of sorted out, and this guy, Ken Freeman, was around, as it were, acting as a manager, and he was talking about planning for the next year, and the touring and everything and so on. And halfway through the making of the last album, Strangeways, there was a video shoot to be done for one of the first singles to come from the album, and Ken arranged it all, got the video crews down and everything. Morrissey didn't show, and it was becoming quite obvious that Morrissey wasn't as keen as Johnny on having this guy involved in managing the band. But that was the only thing I saw that was causing any kind of conflict. Everything else was fine. You know, it was a really good, happy session. So when I got this phone call from Jeff Travis later in the year saying, "Have you heard about Johnny? He's left the band," I just thought, it's just a little tiff, you know. Within a few weeks they were kind of sorted it out, and then they would have got back together again. And I really, really, you know, didn't believe it was a permanent split. When Johnny first left, the idea was, as far as Morrissey was concerned, was to keep going. I think he thought he could keep going at least for a while until Johnny came to his senses, perhaps, and rejoined the band. We tried this session with a guy called Ivor Perry, who was a guitar player from a band called Easterhouse at the time. But it was a nightmare. It didn't really work at all. I certainly didn't get on very well with the guy. Mike and Andy didn't really kind of click with him. It was obvious it wasn't going to work. We had a weekend session on a Saturday and a Sunday. The Sunday morning, I got a phone call from Andy saying, "Oh, don't bother going in. Morrissey's gone back to Manchester." You know, it wasn't going to work. So that's when I sent off my cassette of songs for Morrissey to work with, because there was nothing in the can after Strangeways, Here We Come. There was nothing left. You know, it was the barrel was empty, as it were. And I knew there were going to be singles from the album released, at least 2 more singles or something. So my idea was, look, here's some songs, you know, if you want to use them as B-sides for the next singles, please feel free to, please, don't, I feel a bit presumptuous doing this, but I felt I had to do something. I thought, I might as well kind of throw my hat into the ring, as it were. Of course, the next thing I hear is a postcard from him saying, "Stephen, I want to make a solo record. I love the things you've sent me. Are you interested?" I was like, wow. This was waiting on my doorstep, and after I got back from my honeymoon. I got married August of that year. And I was like, this is fantastic. So it was mid-August that I actually first had my meeting with him, when we sat down and discussed about making what turned out to be Viva Hate. And one of the first things, I asked him, I said, "Do you want Mike and Andy to be involved?" And he said, "No, this has got to be my solo record. Have you got any ideas who we can work with?" And that's when I came up with the idea of working with Vinnie Riley and Andrew Morrissey, who are the 2 musicians that I got involved on that first album.